Hello there viewers, something a little different today. FPL, fantasy football. I've been playing fantasy football since I was in probably year 10, year 11 at school, so that's at least 10 years, nearly 15 years. Oh my, I'm so old. So I thought I'd do this year is share my FPL progress with you. I'm going to be doing monthly updates at the start of every single month, talking through what I'm doing on my Premier League sides and how they're getting on points-wise as well. Of course, I've got my own league. There's a link in the description to that, and there will be details on screen. Lots of you have joined it before, so if you want to get involved again, you can do. Of course, this video is on Wednesday. There's plenty that could happen in between now and the transfer window ending, so it's relevant to right now. You might ask why I'm not doing this further in the week, because I'm doing Premier League predictions further in the week, viewers. We've got to get the FPL sorted. I've had this planned for weeks. So then, let's talk through. First things first, we're going to go through the squad and look at the players that I've selected for my first squad this year. The first, 15 players that you select, and then we'll look at the fixtures and how I think they'll do in the opening few weeks of FPL. So if you're looking for a few hints and tips, I'm not saying this is the perfect place to be, but I'll do my very best, and if we share our progress together, this could be fun. I've also got a Discord channel which has got a channel specifically for fantasy football, so get yourself involved. And of course, let me know what you think of my team in the comment section down below. And if you enjoy this sort of content, do drop a like on it, because it'll encourage me to do plenty more of this. Okay then, let's start with the goalkeepers. I've always felt with fantasy football, you go with one goalkeeper that you know is sort of a throwaway cheap option, so you can invest elsewhere, and one that you want to play almost every single game. So first things first, let's go for that throwaway keeper. No disrespect to Stekelenburg, who is taking that role for me. It costs 4 million, so it makes a lot of sense to have him just there. There's not much more to say about Stekelenburg. He's not going to play too much for me this year. The keeper I've gone with then, of course, I feel like there's only really 2 options, or maybe 3. I guess you could add De Gea, maybe Lloris in there as well. But it's Ederson or Alisson, isn't it? I've got clean sheets for days last season, and I've gone with Liverpool goalkeeper Alisson, who, I think he's very, very good. Distribution's fantastic, of course, not so important with FPL, but a bit of a presence in goal and should get massive points for him. He got a lot of points last year, the most, I think, in FPL, so it makes a lot of sense to have him in there. Got the most clean sheets, and hopefully he does the same again this season. It would be good for me. Now, let's focus on that back 5 then. Of course, I'm only going to select either 3 or 4 from my actual team, ordinarily, but Lewis Dunk, the first one at Brighton. Now, the defence is interesting because of who's transferred and who might transfer. Lewis Dunk might move by the time that you watch this, or by the time the transfer window ends. He may well be the replacement for Harry Maguire at Leicester, so if he doesn't move, I still think he's a nice option to have at Brighton, especially when Brighton plays some of those lesser sides or sides in and around them. We've seen in recent years Brighton have been pretty good defensively. Lewis Dunk's been a key part of that, so that 4.5 million, that's really good value, I think. And as we move along a little bit, Nathan Ake is another player that could potentially move. The fee that Bournemouth want apparently is massive, so I think it's unlikely, but I think Bournemouth, again, against these sides that maybe are slightly lesser than Bournemouth are an established Premier League side now, I think he might do quite well, so he's in there as well. As a bargain, I think, at 5 million, I really think he's a quality defender to have in there, although Bournemouth, they're not known for their clean sheets, but again, I think he's a decent defender. I think Eddie Howe might have them slightly more defensively well-drilled this year. I've got a feeling about that. Wan-Bissaka is next on the list. Of course, the big money move at right back for Manchester United, a position they've needed to fill for some time. Crystal Palace let him go. They got a fair amount of money for him. I think Wan-Bissaka will have a really good year. As a Liverpool fan, that pains me a little bit because I think it's quite a good signing for Manchester United. It'll be there for a long time. Just how good Wan-Bissaka is, we'll find out now he's at Manchester United. When you're at a top club, I think there's a real chance for you to showcase your skills here. We saw last year at fullback, there's a few defenders that played really well. Assists for days. Trent Alexander-Arnold, of course, the key one. He's worth a little bit too much, though, in my opinion. 1.5 million less for Wan-Bissaka, who I think will do a similar job to Trent. I think it's better value in terms of FPL, so we've gone for him. Next to him, Manchester United and new signing teammate Harry Maguire. Now, interestingly with Maguire, I had him in my FPL team very, very early. 5.5 million. I think it's really good value. I don't know if that will change now he's moved to Manchester United, but I had him in there as Leicester. Obviously, started at Leicester with the express understanding that I thought he would move to Manchester United in time to be featuring in their first game. And I think there's no doubt in my mind, at least, that he'll start that opening game for Manchester United. So Harry Maguire, 5.5 million. I think that's pretty good. And his former Leicester teammate will go to the left-hand side, Ben Chilwell, as well. I think, again, left-sided player, lots of assists. I know Brendan Rodgers loves to see his fullbacks fly forward and get involved as well. He's done that at every club he's been at. So I think Ben Chilwell could be in for a fantastic year, and assists are plenty in that Leicester side. So he rounds out our 5 defenders at the back. What do you think? Not bad, I think. Good value in the market. No one over 5.5 million. We could have definitely stretched that. You look at the players there at Manchester City and Chelsea and such are really good. Players I consider getting, someone like Mendy at Manchester City, I think is a really good option. Of course, Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, will they have similar seasons to last year? If they do, go for those guys, obviously. But I'm going to wait to see on those boys and go for some cheaper options so we can strengthen in midfield and further up front as well. Right, let's roll things on a little bit and go to our midfield. 5 players in this section as well, and similarly to our defence, it's a few that might move, so this could be quite interesting. The first one, though, won't move at all. Jack Grealish, back in the Premier League with Aston Villa, £6 million, one of their creative players. Doesn't play quite as far forward as he used to when he was there previously. I'll say previously, when they were in the Premier League previously. But I do think for £6 million, he's really good value. Midfielders, there's one or two, I think, in particular, that are really worth picking up that are value for money. And Grealish, again, we talk about Ake and Dunk before, right? When they're playing these sides that they can maybe beat, Grealish should have an impact. Likes to score, likes to assist. Did that in the Championship last year. If he continues to do that this year in the Premier League, then yeah, he could be a nice little player to have. I don't necessarily think he'll be the sort of player that's in my team every single week, and he might be rotated out very quickly. Who knows? But yeah, I think I'm going to give him a chance for the first few games. They've got some interesting fixtures at the very start as well. They play Bournemouth at home, Everton at home, Crystal Palace. They start with Tottenham, which is obviously a tricky one, and then West Ham at home. So that first 5, Grealish has definitely got an opportunity to showcase just how good he is. Next to him, a man that last year was very, very good, Ryan Fraser, kicks things off against Sheffield United and Aston Villa away as well. David Brooks injured for the first part of the season, so it's definitely the case, I think, that Fraser will certainly play for the majority of this year, much like he did last. Loads of assists to his name. Was linked to him with Arsenal, wasn't he, at some point as well? But yeah, Ryan Fraser, first man in, also it's the second man into my midfield. I think he could have a really, really strong season. And the man next to him might have moved by the time this video comes out, or in the future. He's been linked with moves away all summer. Wilfred Zaha at Crystal Palace is the man. 7 million. I think no matter where he ends up, this guy's got an X factor that not too many players in the Premier League have got. And to get him for 7 million, when you look at the likes of some of the guys that are worth far more, like Sterling, for example, 12 million, Salah, 12.5 million. There'll be a lot of people picking those players because they are high-scoring players, especially Sterling and Salah. I'll reveal now they're not in my side this year, partially because everybody's got them. And while they are high-scoring players, and look, if they go on runs of goal-scoring, then of course I'm going to try and weave them into my team somehow. And if you've gone for them early on, I can totally understand why. But Zaha is that maybe dark horse, especially against, say, if he goes to Everton, you might have a Richarlison, Moise Keane, a Wilfred Zaha situation in the forward area, so that could be quite exciting. So yeah, whether he stays at Palace or not, we'll see. He's the key man at Palace. He could be the key man at Everton as well, if he is to move there or anywhere. Right, moving slightly further down the list then, James Milner for 5.5 million. The logic here is that he takes Liverpool's penalties, and with VAR being a factor this year, I think that could be quite important across the board. You'll see that as we go forward to my strikers as well. But James Milner, 5.5 million, slight injury concern going into game week 1 especially, picks up a little knock in Liverpool's pre-season, but I think he'll start that first game. I think I'll be very surprised if we don't see him. I think at home to Norwich, that's the sort of game Jurgen Klopp likes to get James Milner into. And as I say, he takes the penalties for Liverpool. If he doesn't play, Salah will take the penalties, so there's a little tip for you if you're doing your FPL team. But yeah, James Milner, 5.5 million for a man that's on penalties. That ain't bad. I think that's really, really good value. And on that as well, I think there'll be lots of players that penalty takers. Crystal Palace have obviously got Milovic. Is that how you say Milovic? Something similar to that. Sigurdsson at Everton as well, I think, will take penalties. They might be key men this year with VAR being so pivotal. But yeah, Milner's the man for me. Moving across though, Manchester City, from Liverpool to Manchester City, staying at the top of the table, suspectedly. Kevin De Bruyne, 9.5 million. Spent a lot of last year injured, but traditionally has been a high scorer when it comes to fantasy football. Assists, goals. I think this man might have quite the year. And yeah, back in the side for City this year. I think we'll see a lot of him. We talked about those midfielders before. Mane, 11.5 million. Sterling, 12. You've got Salah on 12.5. For me, Kevin De Bruyne, similar price to exact same price, just to say, as Son. That's pretty good, I think. I think there's a lot to be said there for Kevin De Bruyne, and I expect him to have a big year for Manchester City, and hopefully in my FPL team. They've got a tricky start, though, I think, actually. Away at West Ham, at home to Tottenham, and away at Bournemouth. That might be tricky. Bournemouth pretty good at home, but then after that, their run is a little simpler. So, yeah, I expect him to score highly, especially in those maybe the first month or two of FPL. Right, we've done our midfielders. Let's move on to the attackers, or the forwards, as they're said, of fantasy football. All right then, 3 players in this particular section, and we're going to start ourselves at Watford with Troy Deeney. Now, for 6.5 million, I'm not sure there's a better striker out there that is value for money at the very start of this FPL season. Scores a lot of goals for Watford over the last few years, takes penalties as well. I'm pretty sure, Watford fans, if I'm wrong, tell me quickly so I can alter that. But it's got quite not as easy, but quite a comfortable start to the season. They play Brighton on the opening day at home, which I think is probably going to be a win for them. Everton away is tricky. West Ham at home could be quite comfortable. Newcastle away. those games there, and then they play Arsenal as the 5th game. Troy Deeney loves those sorts of games. I feel like that's a list there that Troy Deeney will relish, and whether it's him or Andre Gray starting up front, or maybe the pair of them, I think he'll be a big factor in how Watford do this year. So yeah, Troy Deeney number 1, and then we've spent 20 million on these last 2. The first of which is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang at Arsenal, who I think will be a superstar. I'm pretty confident he takes Arsenal's penalties again. You can see a theme here, can't you? And will be their top goal scorer this year. We might see Aubameyang score 25, 30 goals this year. I genuinely think with the way VAR it will be implemented this year, he might be a higher scorer. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say really. He's the key man at Arsenal, isn't he? He's their driving force. I worry about Arsenal defensively. There's no defenders in this side from Arsenal, but going forward, Aubameyang was a really good informed striker last year. Suspect he might carry that on again this year. And I saw him score a goal in pre-season that was classic Aubameyang. So I'm basing it purely on that one shot I saw him score, as well as the fact he scores plenty of goals. And yeah, it start of the FPL. Tricky away at Newcastle, home to Burnley, that should be a bit of a gimme. Away at Liverpool's tough, but I do think having him there for a sustained period might be the ticket. And yeah, there's Aubameyang then. It was very tricky actually. You can go with a player like Aubameyang, who's got quite a comfortable start, or Callum Wilson, I think, is potentially an option as well. Similar style player, but Callum Wilson's start to the season plays some quite comfortable early games. So it was him or Aubameyang really for me. Price-wise, there's a little gap in between, but yeah, decent options, the pair of them. I think the gap is 3 million. So yeah, I don't know. This is why we love fantasy football, right? Finally, rounding things off, my captain for the week, game week 1. Jamie Vardy. Brendan Rodgers loves him. I mean, I love him as well. Jamie Vardy will be a star this year. Pretty confident, viewers, and this is becoming a theme. Whether it be Maddison or Vardy, I'm not sure. I think it'll be Vardy takes those Leicester penalties. And yeah, with the way Vardy goes down sometimes, I think there might be a chance that he'll get quite a few. So yeah, Jamie Vardy in there as my captain for game week 1 at home to Wolverhampton Wanderers, who I think will have a good year. But regardless, I think it's the sort of game that Vardy will enjoy. Chelsea away after that, Sheffield United away, Bournemouth at home. There's some games there that I think Vardy can definitely score in. So he's the why I've gone for him. Let's then take a look at my game week 1 then. What are we going with? You've seen the squad. What's the 11? Okay, starting in goal at home to Norwich. Alisson, you'd expect him to keep a clean sheet. Opening day fixtures, though, can go a little bit wild. But Alisson there in goal then. At the back, Nathan Ake, Harry Maguire, Wan-Bissaka and Ben Chilwell. Chilwell at home to Wolves. I think that could be tricky. Wolves are pretty potent going forward, so that's a bit dangerous. And I'm hoping, in a strange, bizarre alternate universe, that Manchester United keep a clean sheet at Chelsea. I'm not got any Chelsea players in this team, so we're seeing if United can do the business. Maguire and Wan-Bissaka, both new players at Manchester United, both with a lot of expectation, and I think they might do quite well. And Ake at home to Sheffield United, no disrespect to them, but I think a clean sheet, the probability is probably quite high. Moving further forward then, I've gone for a 4-3-3, viewers. I'll break it to you now. I've got a 4 at the back. Ryan Fraser, Kevin De Bruyne and James Milner make up the midfield. Really, again, it's to do with this opening day. I think Milner will start against Norwich. That, for me, is probably my biggest risk. He could play Naby Keita, who's looked pretty good in pre-season. He might go Fabinho and Henderson. Wijnaldum's there as well. I think he likes James Milner, though. I think Milner, opening day fixture, you want that experience in your side. I'm gambling, to be honest, viewers. We'll see if it pays off. Yeah, I don't know. It's a half first sub, basically, just in case. Yeah, as I say, Kevin De Bruyne, expected to have a good year. Fraser, we talked about him a little bit before. Hoping for good things. At home to Sheffield United again. Bournemouth better win, is what I'm getting at here. Going at the front 3 then, we've talked about them, we know who they are already. Deeney, Vardy, Aubameyang in that front 3 position. And yeah, I think it should go quite well for me. Let me know what you think though. Share your team if you like in the comment section as well. And let's hope for a good week. I'll be back September the 1st. It's my birthday, so I should be there for it. We shall discuss, or the closest sort of, maybe the Friday or Thursday closest to FPL, where we'll cover what's happened since this selection, as well as some more bits and pieces in regards to what we're going to plan going forward. Do get involved though, of course. Let's say link in the description to the league, and there's been a code on screen at all times. It's like it's Denubs or something. I'm not sure. It's something similar to that. People keep asking me for it. Right, yeah, get involved. And if you enjoy this sort of content, do drop a like on it. I'm going to be doing more Premier League chat, I think, on this channel. I planned to do it a couple of years ago and it never paid off, but this year I think might be the year I get fully invested and involved in it. So hopefully looking forward to it. If you are, make sure you're subscribed. Now then, that brings us to the end. With love, with care, from me, it's mentioned. So next time, I'll see you again very, very soon. Goodbye. I also have 2 million left over. So, I'm now second guessing James Milner. Make sure you follow me on Twitter for updates to all of this.